And welcome once again to another episode of Stu Him Productions Presents
J&M Solve the World. I am James.
And I am Matt. And tonight's topic, something that a little near and dear to our hearts, something that we know a little bit about. Musical instruments. What we like, what we don't like, favorites, ones that we could do without. I know you're a Jackson fan.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
No other reason than besides when I first started playing guitar, some of my favorite bands, Metallica, Megadeth, especially Megadeth, they were all Jacksons.
Yeah.
Kirk Hammett, he played a Jackson V that looks a lot like mine, except his was black hardware and had a whammy bar.
Yeah.
And I just liked the look and everything. And then, of course, once I got a little more experience and could tell difference between quality and non-quality, I just liked it. Especially the at least Japanese made Jacksons up to like my Visa USA made. I mean, the quality is just there.
Right.
The Fender Strat is the iconic rock guitar. I mean, Eddie Van Halen played a Strat, so what the hell?
Kind of,
yeah. But I just never was a fan of the look, the headstock, and especially if you go to a telly, that little bitty skinny headstock. I just never liked that. But the Strat sound was good. But I've played a few Strats, but their necks were thick like a baseball bat compared to these flat Jackson necks and everything.
Well, and that's like Stevie Ray's SRV1.
Yeah.
That one, of course, Strat body, but then the neck, because I'm probably fucking completely wrong here, but the neck was not the neck that came on the guitar. It was like a 58 neck or something like that because it was thinner.
It was a jazz neck or something, wasn't it? It was a...
Yeah,
it was a Strat headstock, but it was a thinner neck. It was like a jazz or something.
Yeah, it'd be like a jazz bass.
Something like that.
Neck. But, I mean, he switched him out. And, I mean, Stevie Ray was a Strat player from fucking day one.
Strats and Fender amps.
Yeah.
That. And can you disagree with what Stevie Ray made? No. I mean,
okay. John 5.
Plays a telly.
Right.
It plays metal with a telly.
Well, Jim Root from Slipknot and Stone Sour.
Yeah.
He played a telly for the longest time.
Right.
A telly, a Mustang. So I mean, it's there, but it's like, what do you have to do to make it sound like, especially a telly? What do you got to do to a telly to make it sound metal?
Well, that's where your amp and your effects pedals or your processor or whatever they're using, that's where all that comes in.
Pickups.
Kind of like Dime, he played Deans through transistor Randall amps.
Yeah.
But he had a floor full of stomp boxes to get that tube sound. Because that was one of the criticisms that I heard of him very early on when they started making it. He's like, well, why don't you just buy a Marshall, and get rid of all them pedals? Well, he liked all the pedals, and he won a Randall, at a guitar contest, and
you can't
that's what he had.
Right, and you cannot say that Dime was not a loyal user.
Mm-hmm.
Even when Dean went out of business before he signed on with Washburn,
right,
he was combing pawn shops looking for Dean MLs.
Yeah, every town he went to, where's the pawn shops at?
Yep. There was the one ML that they built, and I'm wanting to say it's the Concrete Sledge one that had a reverse headstock Jackson neck on it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's the ML body, but it's a reverse headstock Jackson neck on it.
You're talking about the sounds that guys achieve. It's like I watched Tom Morello. I think it was on Nikki Sixx's favorite licks.
Yeah.
Or favorite riffs.
Yeah.
And, he started out with a 50-watt Marshall. and everybody told him, "Oh man, guitar players are going away. Everybody's going to keyboards and everything." And so he tried to mimic all those keyboard sounds he heard on his guitar,
right,
with a 50-watt Marshall. And Nicky asked him, said, "Well, what do you play now?" He said, "A 50-watt Marshall." He said, "Well, how come you haven't got a 100-watt now? You can afford a 100-watt." You said, "That's all you could afford was a 50-watt before." He said, "Because that's my sound."
Yeah.
He said, "I can't, he said, that's how I achieve my sound is with this particular amp."
Right. And that's what, to go back to the dime piece, Grady is going on tour with Pantera, because Rita has given the blessing for them to use Dime's gear to get Dime's sound.
Yeah.
And nobody on this earth knows Dime's sound better than Grady.
Right. Yeah, I am, when I heard that, I was, because I know Zach can play the music. I mean, besides the fact him and Dime were friends, and I know Zach can play the music, but if he's playing his gear, that's, I mean, then if Grady operates the whammy pedal or the whammy pedal and the other effects in the back, I'd say if you close your eyes, you'll be like, okay, that's Pantera.
And Grady has said he's not going to be Zach's tech,
right?
Because Zach's tech has been with Zach for over 20 years, and Grady gave the guy props and everything. And there's videos of Zach from a few years ago doing the solos to Walk and Strength Beyond Strength and Becoming. And I mean, he's playing a wild audio guitar. He's playing one of his own guitars
through his Marshall
setup,
but it still sounds
right. You can tell what song it is without reading it, but it doesn't have that Dime sound.
Are they going to do Randall amps, or are they going to do the crank amps that Dime was playing last?
Because I that's a hard one.
I mean, because wasn't he playing crank? Crank with a K.
Yeah, because they did a Crankenstein,
right?
And it was an all tubed amp, and he didn't record Damage Plan with it, but I know the last part of that tour, like September, October, November, he played crank amps. But before that, he had the Randall Warheads, which the bottom cabinet was a 215 bottom cabinet and a 412 top, and I mean,
right. I know. I remember the first Pantera video where they were at the Foundation Forum, I guess.
Yep.
And the 3 songs they played live on the video there, you're sitting there going, man, that don't sound like, I mean, I know it's Dime playing, but it didn't have his sound because he was playing through a Marshall. Because that's all you seen anyway, unless you had something off stage. But that's all you seen was Marshalls. It's like, okay, it's just a little different sound. I mean, you can tell it was him, but
and it's like there's video of Dime playing. There's one he's playing a Rhodes V. There's one he's playing a Strat shape, and it just looks weird. It's like Hetfield.
If you've seen Dime playing a Tele, you'd be like, what?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like seeing Hetfield play something other than the Explorer shape.
Right.
He's got his Les Paul shapes that he plays. Or, okay, when Zach was with Ozzy back in the day, seeing him play something other than a Les Paul.
Right.
And granted, with the wild audios now, is got the Odin and the Barbarian and the Berserker and all these other shapes, but it has that Zach sound.
Oh yeah, Well, according to Amazon, when I looked up pickups, it's the EMG 81 and 82
Yeah.
set up for him
Right.
with the windings and everything. And
Well, that's like Rex's signature Thunderbird. You know, he has it. It has a Rex Bucker. Two Rex Buckers. That's what Gibson actually says. What they call it. But I mean, it's the same as the Dime Bucker.
Think he ripped that off?
Well, Rex did say, you know, because apparently they had talked about it, like when he started talking with Gibson about a signature model, because his solo album that he put out, which was really good, Smoke on This, he played guitar.
Okay.
Because Rex played guitar before he joined Pantera.
Well, and even like on Cowboys, he played a lot of the backing guitar riffs on that album.
And when Vinny
on Vulgar Display, they had no rhythm guitar
correct
on the album. It's what you heard on the CD or album or whatever you want to call it is the way it sounded live.
And it wasn't until Far Beyond Driven did Rex start playing a five string.
I think they've done some alternate tunings and stuff on that album,
Yeah.
though, so he was able to do that without changing basses.
Yeah.
He could play on the B.
But when Vinny approached Rex about joining Pantera, Rex was playing guitar.
Oh, yeah.
And Vinny's like, you know, we got Dime. And then, of course, Terry Glaze played a little bit of guitar rhythm right there, too. So that's when Rex switched over to the bass.
Yep.
But anyways.
back to our favorite instruments there.
Yeah.
Of course, Jackson's my favorite. I like Ibanez. I mean, probably my first real guitar was an Ibanez. I mean, I had harmonies. Bought at a pawn shop for $50, you know?
Yeah. Well, shit, my first bass was a Harmony SG.
Yeah.
I mean...
that never got played on a blindside stage, did it?
No. That went to... Hell, I got that when I was still in high school.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happened to that one. But...
I remember one time, I think Chris and I came over to your house or something. It was right when we first met, and you were showing us your Harmony SG.
Yeah. And oh my God.
It was cool looking.
Yeah. And that was, okay. So going off onto a little thing there, my amp was a 15-inch Black Widow PV back in high school.
Really?
I've got a picture of me sitting there with some weird throw off fucking fedora. You know, I got my glasses on, and I've got my SG, and I'm sitting on a PV amp.
Really?
And it's the same style that is sitting in Chris's garage right now, or his basement.
His basement, yeah.
And that thing is bigger than what I remember.
Yeah. You don't remember hauling that son of a bitch around?
No.
It had wheels, though.
Yes, that was the only saving grace with that one, is it had fucking wheels.
Yeah. I need to do that to my amp. I need to put some casters on the bottom of it on my 412 cabinet.
Yeah.
Because that's what those little grooves in the top of the cabinets are for.
Yeah.
It's for the casters of the top cabinet to set down in that cabinet.
So it doesn't move.
Right.
I have a Jackson bass, a Dean, and then two Ibanez's. And I've got to say, I prefer, of all the basses that I've played, I prefer my Ibanez's. The RG is amazing. My Iceman, that's been a dream bass for ever.
Yeah. The playability. I mean, I played, like I say, I had that one Ibanez, and then I've played several others, you know, at music stores and stuff.
Yeah.
The playability is great. It's just an aesthetics thing. I like the Jackson shark fins better than the Ibanez shark fins, because they got the two little points.
The jagged.
Yeah, the jagged ones, you know. it's just a look thing. But
Yeah.
I prefer that shark fin of
Right.
the Jackson.
Yeah. But I mean,
And then the headstock with the point,
Yeah.
the Ibanez is a little straighter, kind of stratish looking.
and it's got that.
Got the little deal, yeah.
Yep. Got the little nick out of it. Wow. I'm looking.
Of course, there's other. I mean, in fact, you always talk about fenders. One night out to Southern Star, this guy, Drex Salazar, he was in the Southern Star band, and he was showing me this new Fender he had bought. It is a beautiful guitar, Strat, and it had the drop D mode on it. But he showed it to me, and it's like, man, that's cool. Well, later on the night, they said, hey, you want to get up and do a song with us? I'm like, okay. What song are they going to know? Oh, they used to play Living After Midnight. So it's like, hey, let's do that. And, of course, Drex was a little bit smaller guy than me, and so I put his guitar on, and it's kind of up here like this. So I looked the country part,
Yeah.
But I played that thing, and, man, it played phenomenal. It had a thinner neck than a standard. It was. I think it was a standard. I don't remember the exact name of it, but anyway, it had a little thinner neck than your regular Strat did. And, man, jumbo frets, which most Strats didn't have the jumbo frets. Man, it played phenomenal.
Yeah.
It was really cool, but I just never, like I say, I like the look of the Jackson.
Right.
It's just an aesthetics thing. It's nothing to do with.
Well, and, there comes a point with certain players.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say they get pigeonholed into a shape, but, when, like Dave Mustaine, when he switched from Jackson to Dean, well, the Dean V's that they were making for him looked an awful lot like a Jackson. I mean, they even switched the headstock.
Had the sharp points instead of the rounded points, and
and now he's with Gibson, and Gibson, I haven't quite seen like 100% like a clear picture of what the Dave Mustaine signature.
He played Washburns for a while too, didn't he? After Jackson, I thought he did. But
I'm not.
I may be wrong. I don't know. I could be lying.
Lizzie Hale.
She's a Gibson girl.
Explorers.
Yep. Big old heavy. That way, if you jump on the stage, try to grab her titty, she's knocking you the fuck out with it, with that Explorer.
Well, and now she's got a signature.
Does she?
Yeah.
Yeah. I seen an interview with her talking about that. She goes, I just love that Gibson sound. She goes, they're fucking heavy as fuck.
Yep.
But that's just the sound and the sustain, and that's just what I play.
Yeah. Joan Jett with a Strat.
Right.
Yngwie Malmsteen with a Strat with the scallop neck.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Vai with his Gem.
Yeah.
Ibanez Gem.
Ibanez Gem 7-string.
With the handle.
Yep.
He was actually the first one to use the 7 strings. He did it before Korn.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't know if he was the very first player to ever play this, but he was probably the most well-known, and have his own signature series, with the vine inlays and all
and
that.
that's the cool thing, because I know he played Carvin amps for the longest.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know.
He had his own signature Carvin.
Yeah. But he's been, and Ibanez has kind of went away from the mainstay, but Steve Vai has been with Ibanez like.
Oh, yeah, since early mid-'80s.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first time I remember seeing him play was with David Lee Roth.
Yeah.
And he was playing an Ibanez then.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the two main ones in rock and metal back in the 80s was Jackson and Ibanez.
Yeah.
You had some BC Riches.
Yep.
The Warlocks. And
you had a few people playing.
Lita Ford.
Yeah. And of course, James Hetfield played Explorers.
And
he had a couple of V's, but he didn't play those too much. Gibson V's.
I was going to say they were Gibson V's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he was exclusive Gibson. He was never signed.
Right.
Never had an endorsement.
Right.
But then again, that's why a lot of the photos, Gibson would be covered on the headstock.
Yeah, I always like that. The music videos back then, if they didn't have an endorsement deal, there'd be a piece of black tape going through the name.
Yeah.
On the headstock. You could see that it was a Jackson or an Ibanez or
Yep.
a Fender or whatever, but there was a piece of black tape.
Yep.
It's like, if you ain't going to pay me, we ain't going to advertise. On that note, though, that's what I like about Marshall. They didn't endorse any guitar players.
Nope.
And Jim Marshall said the reason we don't is if I give you a free Marshall amp, then the general public that comes in and buys an amp, I got to charge them more because I gave you one.
Yep.
He said, if I'm giving all these, but every rock and roll metal band back to Jimi Hendrix, Marshalls.
Yeah.
Behind them.
Well, I mean, and there was Marshall signatures.
Oh, yeah.
Because, fuck, Marshall had a signature Lemmy.
Right.
A Marshall-based Lemmy.
I just watched that when they gave him the new one. They retired the old one. And they gave
Murder
him
One.
Murder One.
Yep.
But, yeah, they had signatures, which was, they tubed them and jacked with them. Joe Satriani had one. Slash had one.
Yeah.
I mean, the list goes on. But that was more for their sound.
Right.
But I don't think they were given to them.
Correct.
Now, they may have got a piece of the profit because the Signature Series amp was, you have a JCM 800 and a JCM 800 Slash edition, it was going to be more money.
Mm-hmm.
So that might have been where the artist got their
right.
part of it,
Well, and that's like...
then I could be lying because I don't know what their deal was money-wise.
Signature guitars.
Mm-hmm.
Like the ESP I just got.
Right.
The MH30. To look at it, it looks like a standard ESP.
Right.
But now, let me throw Kirk Hammett's name on it.
Right. Kirk Hammett's name with the skull and crossbone inlays.
Yep.
Yep.
There you go. But
I always thought that was a cool looking guitar. I never owned one, but that was a cool looking guitar, especially with the skull and crossbones where the dots are at.
Yeah, and it was weird when he got that Les Paul looking one, because it was like he was a standard like Strat shape guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe throwing in a V
Jackson V.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every now and then, but I mean that was a Rhodes V.
The Rhodes V, yeah, not the King V.
Right.
One of my favorite ones that he had, it was an ESP. I think it was it Black Album or no? It might have been Load. Was the acrylic body with the blue fluid in it?
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, because the video to one, he actually had a cream colored Strat.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the video was black and white, but
right,
you could definitely tell it was a cream colored Strat.
Yeah.
Now, amp wise, I love Ampegs.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, I mean, but that's classic bass sound is a fucking Ampeg.
Right.
But if I could have a Black Widow PV again, I'd fucking have a Black Widow PV because I didn't really have a sound, but it was like that was my sound.
Right.
Was that Black Widow 300 watt fucking PV amp.
Right. Well, it's like me. I mean, my dream amp is a Marshall. I don't know that I'll ever spend that kind of money on a full tube Marshall.
Yeah.
But, like we've discussed on other podcasts, I've got a tube amp. It's a tube preamp with a tube power amp going into a 412 cabinet with my processor. And, sounds great. It doesn't say Marshall on it.
Right.
But, and if we were playing more blues and stuff, I would probably go with a Fender.
Mm-hmm.
Like a Fender Twin or something like that, because you got that bluesy.
Yeah.
It's a warmer sound, But we play metal, so no.
Well, hell.
I mean, I can achieve that sound with what I got.
Yeah. Scott Ian from Anthrax. He played, he plays Jackson guitars. He's played Jacksons forever. Mm-hmm. And he's played Marshalls.
Yeah.
But they'll take the screen off the Marshall, and they use, I believe it's camouflage fabric, and then it's got the Anthrax logo.
Right.
Where it would say Marshall or, whatever else, it's got the Anthrax logo.
Kind of like Metallica done a few years ago, where the screens on their cabinets just had the M, Metallica M on it. Whether it's Marshalls or they've been playing.
Kirk's been with Mesa Boogie forever.
Yeah,
and
which is Mesa Boogie. I mean, I'd like to have one of them too.
Yeah,
but that's basically an American-made tube amp.
Mm-hmm.
I think they make some transistors too, but I mean the big guys are using tubes.
If I could, I'd have a crate. I loved the crate amps.
The Blue Voodoo.
Oh, if I could get my hands on a fucking Blue Voodoo, I'd be fucking happy. Yeah. But the crate bass amps. I played one at one of the music stores in Springfield, and it was a 212.
Uh-huh.
But the 12s were stacked. They weren't side by side. They were stacked.
Oh, okay.
And it's like, oh my God, that's fucking awesome. And then like right next to it was a 215 cabinet, stacked. Mm-hmm. It's like, I gotta go to the bathroom now. Yeah. Well, okay. Do you remember when I borrowed that one kid's 18 210 cabinet? And we plugged it in through my amp and had to set it in the other side of the house with the door closed, and it was just still like fucking.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a little much for our jam house.
Well, yeah. I mean, that was maybe 700 square feet there on the bottom floor.
Yeah. But that amp would have been great at like the Regency.
Oh yeah. Regency, or even down there in Branson when we opened for Jackal.
That would have sucked though. I mean, because it was a pain in the ass to get our gear off the stage.
Right.
And could you imagine moving that fucking 18?
It would have been really great for our outdoor trailer shows. When we set up on a trailer, because outdoor the sound just goes away. Right.
And with the way bass waves move anyways. So.
Well, because at least bass waves go 360.
Yeah.
Where guitars and your mid-range and your vocals go straight ahead and then into infinity.
To infinity and beyond. Okay. Strings.
Ernie balls. Probably what I played more of than anything else. What was the blue?
Blue Steels.
Blue Steels.
Yep. I played those for a bit.
Yeah. Diodario was good. I mean, there's a lot of good string stuff out there, but the Ernie balls, I mean, especially back when we were playing all the time, for the cost and the sound you got, because, I'd put on new strings before every show.
Right.
I mean, in that set of strings, we'd go through practices and whatever, but then before every show, I'd have new strings on. Affordability, the Ernie balls were, I mean, I don't want to say cheap, but they were affordable.
Inexpensive.
Yeah. And the great sound quality, and they stayed in tune. Mm-hmm. Especially the way Chris and I did it, we stretched the fuck out of them when we put them on and whammied the shit out of it and retuned, and then they were locked. They were just good to go. I
still use now. My Iceman, I do have. God, I forget the name of them, but they're a longer scale string and they're meant for down tuning. Because with the way the Iceman neck is, it's different than any other bass I've ever had, and it's like I got a lot of buzz. Fret buzz, even bringing the action like so high with the way that I play, I still got that fret buzz. But then when I got these other strings, it wasn't that bad. But yeah, I mean the Ernie ball, like the power slinkies. Now Recently, I switched over to I changed one of the basses to a Cobalt. Still Ernie ball, but they're Cobalt,
Right.
and there's a little bit of different sound to them, but
What were
not
those
too
strings
bad.
you had put on this Jackson that you got me? Because I ended up picking up a couple pair of them when we were up there. When you picked up that one bass.
Yeah, I think they're
Ernie ball, but I
yeah.
can't remember
hybrids. I think maybe
something like that.
yeah.
Well, they're heavy. They're heavy on the top, but they're still nines at the bottom.
Right. Yeah.
They're like a 46 on the low E instead of a 42.
Sure.
So you get that heavier bottom end for but then you still get the playability of the nines and everything when you go down.
And that's what the power slinkies that I use on my basses. It's a 105E, and then it goes down to like a 45. My G string is a 45.
So, so basically, it's a little bit lighter than my low E string.
Yeah,
because it's a 46.
Right.
Yeah,
just a tad.
Just a tad.
But then that E string is just fucking. Yeah. That ESP has nines on it.
Yeah, most.
Well, the guy said he just restrung it too.
Most of them from the factory. You talk about Jacksons, ESPs, whatever, especially with the Trent Floyd Roses on them.
Yeah,
they're set up for standard tuning with nines.
Right.
And you can drop half step like what we play most of our stuff, and you can still nines are fine. But you start doing drop Ds or a total D, you probably ought to step up to like tens or something a little bit heavier because they start getting kind of floppy. Yeah,
the strings that are on my Iceman, they're meant for half to 1.5 step down. Because a normal string, you go a full step down, and now it's wobbly.
Yeah.
So.
Which I still don't know how ZZ Top played with sevens on Gibson guitars, but that's the way he played it. And because I seen him on an interview with Sammy Hagar on Sammy Hagar's road trip. And he's like, man, these are freaking light. What are these? Sevens. You've always played with sevens? Yep. Why? They're easier to bend. Yeah. If you listen to ZZ Top, there's a lot of bends and stuff in there in his solos and stuff.
And they've went from like Fender, Gibson, Dean, because they're furry, like the Afterburner, or no, Eliminator. Yeah, around that the Eliminator, Afterburner, they were playing Deans. And then
I guess of course back then I didn't know what a Dean was.
Yeah. Dusty Hill, he loved his Fenders.
I think, most of it is, like say, my love for Jacksons is an aesthetic, just look thing. I just think it looks metal, without going really weird body shapes like the BC Riches. Yeah. The Warlock and the Bitch, those were cool looking guitars. It's like, but if you showed up at a jam somewhere around here with one of them guitars, people would look at you sideways like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Because you're probably going to be sitting there and playing a little country.
Yep. And you're not going to do that with a Dean ML.
Well, you can. It's just, you can play anything you want on them.
Yeah.
John 5 of the Telecaster, proof of that.
Oh, God. Let's see here. We went through strings and guitars, talked about amps. We've covered processors before. I just, that classic rock and roll sound. Jimmy had he had some fuzz and he had his wah.
And a Marshall turned up to 10.
Right.
Yeah, that was. You know where the first distortion came from?
No.
A broken speaker.
Really?
Yeah. It was, God bless it. Can't think of the name of the band now. But they were unloading at the studio, and he had a little, like, 212.
Okay.
It fell off the car. It ripped the speaker. And he's like, shit. You know, didn't have any, couldn't afford to go buy another amp,
right?
Whatever. And they plugged it in, and he started playing, and that speaker was going, I'm going, producer's like, that's the sound.
Okay. I get it.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
why not?
That was actually the first recorded, and I wish I could remember the name of the band now. But it's back in the 60s.
Well, more likely when I edit this, I'll be able to I'll be able to Google it, and I'll have it right up here on what that band is.
Because I got an old brain and it's not working right now.
Well,
as soon as we sign off on this, I'll remember.
Yeah, I mean it's like the comedian episode we did, and it's like it's like son of a bitch, we didn't mention Bill Burr or all these other
right. Not to ditch any of those guys because we love them too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But I think we've pretty much covered what we could cover.
Yep.
Didn't get to use a lot of.
Well, Andrew wasn't in here to.
To give him credit. Yeah. So, but until next time, keep one fist in the gold, one foot in the gutter. You've watched another episode of Stu Him Productions presents
J&M Solve the World. I am James.
And I've been Matt. But once again, keep one fist in the gold and one foot in the gutter, and we will see you next time.
Peace out.